You've got evidence, you're the living proof that God keeps promises and His word won't fail. You've got evidence, you're the living proof that God keeps promises and His word won't fail. Oh, you always keep your word. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do. Yes, you always keep your word. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do. Hi everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. The name is Gorata.Selaledi. I'm so excited to be here today. Happy Monday. I hope this video finds you doing and keeping absolutely well. Today is the last Monday of January 2024. And maybe just as a way of checking in, I'd love your engagement on the comments to hear how your month has been, how has the consistency been, how have you been in terms of managing your health and wellness. The day I recorded this on this beautiful Saturday, cloudy morning, was the day when we did our reflection and journaling circle, and we were reflecting on health and wellness. So how has it been for you? Physical well-being, emotional well-being, relationship and social connections, spiritual well-being, financial well-being, all of those areas. How has it been for you for the month of January? So for today's video, I am going to be doing a Q&A. I did put it out on my Instagram to have people ask me a question, and I have a couple of questions here. Let me count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 questions that we are going to be going through today. But before jumping into this video, I actually want to do a check-in. So I recorded my Wednesday video, it's just going to be a reflection of January in terms of my spiritual check-in, and then I proceeded to record my Faith Friday video, where if I was to tell you that so much was against me actually completing my recordings. I lost my pot, like the pot of itself. Luckily, when I potted this guy, I didn't put the sun in here because it doesn't have holes, so I didn't like that. So yeah, that happened alongside losing my ring light. But the girlie who likes drawing silver linings on clouds was like, you can't help him, right? And also the nice thing being that when I was finishing off my Faith Friday video, you will hear the ramble about time in there somewhere. I was actually worried about missing my mom's phone call, but she did say that she's passing Mahalape by the time I was recording this, which is 2 hours away, so I can finish this recording, go prepare for the day, and be able to go see them off. The testimony is loading for the coming week in terms of what happened there, right? So let's jump right into the Q&A. Let's jump into the Q&A. So question number one. I'm actually going to take them randomly. How are you really? Let's take that as question 1. How are you really, Gorata? Right now, I think I am feeling accomplished because I was able to wake up for the reflection and journaling circle, because that previous weekend, this girlie woke up late. And I think just a small win of just setting the intention before going to bed and kneeling on my knees to pray for God to kind of just go before me into the session, and it went amazingly well. So I am feeling a lot of contentment and accomplishment from that in terms of trying to vocalize my emotions there. Question number 2. How is 2024 so far? 2024 has been such a stretch. It's been a month. It's literally been 28 days. but it has been a stretch for this girl over here. I think just as a check-in, outside of, I guess, nothing too hectic, I had hoped to keep my hair for the whole month, and I think I managed up to day 14. And after that, I was like, it's not gonna work, it's not gonna happen. So I got these cute, almost tribal looking braids for my look, and I was like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. Like, the key struggle is just that so much maintenance goes into keeping my hair out, and it was so hard, it was so frustrating, especially on days when I was tired from work that particular day, and all my body wants to do is sleep. And the maintenance there is washing my hair and drying it out a bit and then putting it into knots, right? And there was a lot of trial and error. There's some days where my curls didn't come out nicely, so I'd have to comb it out, and I'll just be there looking like a 90s girly with her afro out. Not that I mind it, but because it was so soft at the top, because I'm transitioning it, it wasn't giving me what I needed to give me. Question number 3. What is the best part of your day? It wasn't even written as what is the best part, but it said best part of your day. The best part of my day is Bailey, and that is my dog. It is a boy, a mix of a Jack Russell and a Bobo. Don't ask me how that happened. We always laugh and say our child is a product of I don't even know if I want to say it in this video. I'm not gonna say it. But yeah, a Jack Russell and a Bobo. I'm not gonna say it. But yeah, having to experience Bailey, part of me is like, stop this video and delete and record it again, but I'm not. It's not gonna happen. Vulnerability moment, I get it. So yeah, just coming back from home, what he does, he'd run to the car and kind of he scratched the car already, so we need to help him unlearn that. But then I usually just have this cute banter with him. It's like, oh, Missy money. He actually just ran by chasing a dove. But yeah, that's the best part of my day. Seeing my little boy. Then this one starts with a statement. It says, first of all, I love you. I love you too, Em. How do you balance your creativity with everything else in life? And I think this one has always been easy. I remember, maybe just to share a story, I remember when I was in university, I was studying finance, and I recall it was just after I lost my scholarship. Not to say lost it, but if you don't know the story, just look for the video where it says the will of God for my life. But post that, I fell into a young depression, but a part of me, I really wanted to still do what I would have done if I'd left the country, right? So I wanted to do music and possibly psychology, but in terms of choosing the course, I settled on, I guess, what would be most marketable here, and financial services is one of the industries that are actually growing in terms of contribution to GDP, but that's not a story for another day. Yeah, but in uni I was still able to actually make time to go for guitar lessons, even with school, right? And I think in terms of the how, it's always kind of just remembering that if you don't do it, everything else will suffer. That's what I've realized, that for me, like, my creative exploits actually feed my life, from my marriage, my career. It feeds everything. So if I don't do it, all those other areas are going to suffer for sure. So always just kind of just keeping it top of mind to say, after doing it, even my YouTube journey has been so fulfilling in terms of my creativity journey, and me actually keeping consistent doing it kind of feeds into the joy, the vitality for everything else, like for my work, for my marriage, for my friendships, etc. So yeah. Question number 4. What do you do when life lives, or you hit a relapse of some sort, right? What do you do? And I think a practical one would be last year, between May and August, I decided to do a proper social media detox. It wasn't even a detox. I decided to leave. I left. And I think the thing or the word that I would use when lives is self-preservation. And preservation not from a place of being selfish and isolating, but preservation from a lens of now running back to God and running back to your maker in this case, to say, look, I'm here to cry. And for me, I'm a crier, and just crying in God's presence and allowing for him to kind of just do a good work of healing, if it's healing that you need, a good work of restoration, because his word, like I will actually share for my favorite verse, but he says that he can actually restore all of it, and I'm a living testament that he can actually, and then some, right? So in lives for me, posture practically is Bible study, going back and deep into prayer and vulnerable prayer. Like I remember there's a time when we were getting married where I just sat on the couch, I was wearing my face mask, and I was just having my prayer, like my quiet time with God, and I just started crying. Like my eyes, like the tears just started falling through the mask. And I remember my I guess boyfriend at the time then walks in and finds me crying, right? But in those moments, I think it's always so precious, because I kind of just bear it all, and then after that I can actually walk back into my life with confidence, with boldness that God calls us to actually walk with, right? So just the thought from my side, those two key things, right? And then also worship music was also, or is also as well, kind of a place that pulls me and draws me back into a place where I can actually encounter God and then be able to go back into my life, right? What keeps you moving? I'm just going to continue this video on because I've been pausing for each question, and I'm just being mindful of time now. I'm getting nervous as well in this video that mom is going to arrive, but let's honor the next question, right? So it says, what keeps you moving? What keeps you moving? I think God. That would be the most ultimate answer. And I always say to my husband, when we experience breakthrough or see like a moment where God's hand is just visible, like this, you can see that. And I usually say to him that it will be a lie, a bold-faced lie, if I ever say that I did this particular thing or whatever it is with my own strength. Like, it will be a big lie. Actually, the statement is always, if I ever say there is no God, just say it, like just look at me sideways, because this girl, like for me, like my life, each and everything that's happened in my life, I can point to like it's God's finger, his hand all over it, right? So for me, God keeps me going, like having faith in God, having faith in that I am not self-sufficient, and I'm not meant to be self-sufficient, that there is a bigger and higher power that loves me, that calls me friend, that I can call father, that I can go for counsel, that I am royalty in essence, given that he is my Lord and my Savior and my King, right? So literally for me, daughter of the King. And just those realities kind of keep me moving, right? And I'm gonna go to my favorite verse. What's your favorite verse? I'm just thinking, let me do a check-in. I'm just thinking how I've given myself so much work. Like, yay, the editing process for the next 3 videos is going to be hectic, but I'm happy that I've stuck to my short form content. Consistency in that has been yummy to allow you to actually have your own experiences with God. So let's get back into that question. So the question is, what's your favorite verse? And I had to think, and I believe my favorite verse is Joel 2 verse 25. Let me find it. Yeah. Joel, alright, so 225. 2:25, right? It says, "And I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you." I love it. It healed so much in me. And there's, I think, in my October reflection where I was sharing where and when it came into my life, it healed so much in terms of resentment that I was holding against my father. Full complete healing, full circle. I even went back in time to pray and cover who he was when he had me at the time, and just a lot, like in restoring actually also honor for those that in my heart there was a bit of dishonor given how they treated me, and having to heal that. And yay, so much was unlocked, I think, in just resting in this verse and getting to a reality of actually realizing that once we repent and change our minds, there's so much that God can heal. Yeah. 2:25, Joel 2:25. And then I'm going to keep this one for, I guess, the next one. But this yummy one says, "How did you know that your husband was Mr. Right?" So the story goes, when we were dating, I wanted to do this certificate for you to be able to teach English as a foreign language, your TOEFL. And I think it was 1.4, I think. But anyways, I'm having a chat with him. I think we're just chatting via text. I'm like, I want to do this course, and that would mean at the time the intention was to do it and then probably apply to go teach English in China, right? But priorities shifted. But having that chat, and also given where I was coming from in terms of the previous relationships I was in, the expectation was for him to be like, but you're going to leave me, what's going to happen to our relationship? Like, just expecting that selfish response. But he shocked me, where he said, yeah, go ahead and do it. So I was like, okay, what's going to happen when I leave the country? Like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Even now, I think when I think about it, I'm like, such a charming and loving man. And it was refreshing, but also a culture shock, because I was like, I've never actually experienced this. And that's when I kind of knew. I was like, you see me, and I guess also allowing for me to exist outside of the fact that we are in a relationship blew my mind. And being able to actually just see how he would respond, and seeing his stance and position in terms of how he views opportunity and what it means for the other person who's in the relationship, which is me at the time, kind of just solidified the fact that I actually want to be with this guy forever. And we ended up getting married. And we're in our second year, BT dubs. Very proud accomplishment for both of us. And then this question says, what do you do practically to have works with faith when all you can, something. I didn't go check the full question. But what do you do practically to have works with faith? This was from my brother, and I'm grateful that he perceives me to actually have works that are tied to what I am believing for. But what do I do practically, right? I think it's just honoring the call that is placed on my life, right? So all the spaces that I found myself in, just allowing myself to actually yield to bring just what I'm learning from being in the presence of God. So bringing all the pureness in terms of the love that he gives me, bringing that grace. I remember there's a time, something that actually shifted how I perceive who are you? I perceive grace. I'm just gonna pause this video. I had to pause my video. Yeah. My husband says to me, why didn't you wake me up? Yeah, let me move closer. Baby, when I move closer, you're out of frame. So you can just pass behind me. Oh, never mind. Yeah, so train of thought was derailed completely. But what I wanted to say is for the different areas that I am called into, so I'm in the financial services industry. The shift or the point of inflection for me was last year, July, when I was going through my fast. In terms of bringing my best and believing that in that room, given that I know God, I have the power to actually shift the energy of the room, bringing the love, bringing the faith, etc. Financial services industry, coaching industry, although my business is quite small. But for every moment that I have with my different clients, it's just bringing the reality of the fact that they can actually shift their lives and change their stories for the better, right? So I think the practicality of it there in this case is just asking God how you can actually steward what it is He is giving you better. And that's for me a constant thing, because even for new commitments that I make, even this past week I was thinking about how I always want to kind of just give 100%, and if I say yes to something and I can't give 100%, the question is, but am I going to be able to steward it properly? And then the next question says, what advice would you give someone looking to grow in leadership? When I wrote down this question, the thought that I put down was learn how to listen, right? So listening as a key skill that you are going to probably develop all throughout your career, listening to what is said, listening to what is unsaid, listening to the body language, and listening not to respond, but listening to actually figure out how do I bring value given what this person is communicating. And where you don't understand, being able to seek clarity, because I feel like what I'm learning is we're always just communicating. Like everything in our lives is just communication. And the biggest thing I think that we need to master is learning how to listen. Yeah. And then the last two questions that we're going to be reflecting on before we close today's video, today's Q&A. I hope it's been good. I hope it's been wholesome for you watching this video, wherever you are, whatever time zone you are. Keep looking outside because my husband is outside with baby. But yeah, I hope that even the answers that I've given have kind of just pushed you to a place where you can think about your own life as well and how you'd answer those questions. So the second last question says, what encounter made you realize or feel that God is love, that He is always with you? And what I wrote down, and I almost cried even when I was writing this down, is my grandparents, my mom, and my husband, right? And let me explain. For my grandparents, I experienced, or I knew that God is loved through them because of how they loved me, right? And how they allowed me to be myself throughout my entire childhood, and loving me, right, to actually shield me and protect me from certain things, and teaching me principles for life, right? I remember something I was thinking about this week about my granddad was there's a day he printed out this section of the Bible study that we were doing. It was on joy, and I remember he printed out the whole thing and gave it to me. He's like, you need to make time to study this. And every time I think about it now, I'm like, oh wow, that's proper, because you find that joy, I remember that pamphlet is comparing joy and happiness. And even now when I think about it, I'm like, yo, I've lived through so much, but I am still able to actually cultivate that rhythm of joy. So I'm grateful for that. And then also my mom, right? My mom being number one. I think every time it's her birthday, I always just write how she is, and I think it started maybe 5 years ago. She's a conduit of God's love for me, right? And just thinking about it now, I would probably start crying, but it fills me with so much joy looking at our journey in terms of who she's become ever since she's had me, and who I'm becoming as a woman, recognizing all the idiosyncrasies of life and what life brings and what it's brought for her, what it's brought for me, and what it's bringing for us as we come closer and become closer as mother and daughter. Especially, I think, even transitioning into a new family and learning how to still maintain that relationship with her and keep the sanctity of it, right? And then lastly, another encounter that made me feel that God is love is encountering the man who is my husband. I think just seeing everything that he's lived through, and even before we even started dating, I think the different moments that we've had and seeing what was happening in his life kind of shifted my perception of God in a big way, to say that he exists, that he loves me, and not just the act of him loving me, but then just everything that's happened in his life, and how his hand, or the hand of God, was quite evident in his life, right? So I guess the people in my life have made it evident that there is a God in heaven, and I believed I was connected to them strategically to actually remind me of how much he loves me, right? And then the last question is, how are you navigating life, and how do you do it when it gets overwhelming? And for this one, the first part of the question, something that I thought about was how the word navigating triggered the word compass, and the word compass triggered the word Jesus. For the Connect cycle this past week, we were actually talking about your internal compass, and something that I had said was around how Jesus is the model and our true north in terms of how we are to show up, we are to encounter God, most importantly, before we even get to the front of how we show up in the world, right? And I think for me, that's the answer that I'd want to give. And I was going to say, you might think, or you might say, Gorata, that doesn't give me anything. But I think for me, it's just realizing that the model in terms of how to treat people, how to think about life, how to pray, everything is connected to understanding the life of Christ, right? And for me, I think it's bedrock. So every other day, day in, day out, I have to actually make sure I have time with God, right? And then the second part being, how do you do it when it gets overwhelming? And what I wrote down is, run back to God, cry in his presence. And the past 2-3 years have looked like me crying at different levels, to the point where I can't even cry anymore. But I remember I cried last week Saturday as I was getting prayed over. I cried again, but not as much as what we were going through was happening, right? And then also another thing that I noted down was to go to my support structure. And I want to just encourage you, I think, to anyone who might be in a period of their life where they are navigating an isolating period, I want to encourage you to really just think about the people in your life, your top 3 people who would be on your emergency list. And I think these are people that you can trust to actually have your best interest in heart, so that when you're going through a hard moment, having to make a hard decision, you have someone that you can call. Because for me personally, my mind freezes, like it goes blank, and having a phone call, having a conversation eases so much and removes the weight off of me so much, that I'm so grateful, right? So that helps to actually remove the overwhelm for me. So I'd want to encourage you to actually seek out a support structure. And if you don't have those people in your life, you can always then also consider therapy and also consider counseling to actually help you navigate the season of your life you are in. When I explained everything I went through this morning to my husband, he said to me, you've been through so much. And indeed, I have been through so much. just recording these videos for this week. But I wanted to close off today's video, this Q&A, I guess just as a life update, to say that this girlie will be turning 30 this year, and I'm feeling grateful that I started this platform. I saw something on Bumi's page where she was sharing 30 things or 30 lessons, I forget the title, but 30 at 30, I guess, something like that, because she just celebrated her birthday. Happy belated birthday to you, and sending God's blessings as you enter this new season. So I want to do something similar to that the week of my birthday or the month of my birthday, so watch out for that, June 2024. But outside of that, I think let me just stop here, go get ready. We're going to be seeing our parents off. They're going on a cruise. Watch this space for the testimony that I'm going to share there in terms of how that even happened. Because, yeah, just watch this space. Anyways, I hope you have an amazing week ahead. I hope this video blessed you, even the answers that I gave. I hope they were insightful and gave you an idea of who this girlie is. And I really love this space. Something I was thinking about when I was editing my videos, I was just thinking about how precious this space is for me, and I pray that it stays this way in terms of the level of vulnerability and authenticity I bring to this space. What you see in these videos is what you'd get if we meet in person. So if we ever are in the mall and you see me, just give a girlie a high, I was gonna say high five, but a hi, hello, how you doing? Just to catch up in person. But thank you so much for watching this video. And if you were only visiting me for the first time, please do click on the subscription button and the notification bell so that you're notified when new videos go live. Oh yeah, and lastly, may God's favor locate you, and may His grace sustain you throughout this new week. Amen. Oh guys, this morning was so hard. We are whispering because we survived. God is faithful.